Hello all, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3, and in this particular video I'm going to talk to you about what jobs can you get with a doctoral degree. So if you don't know me, I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out that I wanted to pay the favor forward and help you out. All right, so what jobs do you get with a doctoral degree? The most direct route with getting a PhD or a doctorate degree is to go into academia or go into research, right? So in higher education, so higher education is like universities, that's what we would say. So this means with higher education, this means that you would probably become a professor or a researcher in a lab, depending on your area. They're different things, or a principal investigator. They are just different things. So principal investigator is sort of the grant writer. That's what you would call somebody in a particular area in science. They're called a PI, a principal investigator. You can, this is the most direct way. But in industry, there's lots of different opportunities for you to go when you get a doctorate degree as well, right? You can go into research and development at different companies. That's fairly common depending on the degree that you get, the PhD that you get. So if you go into the hard sciences and get a PhD, extremely common to do this, that you'd go into research and development. Like if you go get chemistry, physics, you'd end up working for like a Shell or a BP or a large oil company or a large pharmaceutical company or something like that, where you're actually doing research or helping out with the research efforts. Maybe you go into sales after. That's actually a really common sort of transition, where you'd get a PhD and you go into sales in something very technical. And that would be very helpful for the business, right? It gives credibility that you know what you're doing. And then, you can find other things to do from that. And the other one is you go into some sort of not-for-profit or research institute and do research for the not-for-profit or research institute. It's also really common, but it's probably not as common as sort of the industry route. But there's lots of sort of opportunities that you're going to go into and think about, right? So, but what you have to be careful with is that the PhD that you choose or the doctorate degree that you choose has the outcomes that you'd like, right? So, in business, for example, in business administration, I know that a fair bit. I also know engineering a fair bit as well, because those are my backgrounds. But in terms of business administration or, going into social sciences, it's not as common, right? So a lot of people would go and do the research route within a university. So social sciences, economics, sociology, stuff like that, it's common to go into industry. It's more common to go into industry after that and to different roles. So economics, you'd go into probably some sort of, maybe it's some sort of private equity firm, for example. If it's sociology, you might go into government jobs after that, right? So it just kind of tailors in terms of ones that are more common that you want to look at. In business administration, actually, a lot of people just go into academia, and that's kind of the norm. And the reason why is that to get a business administration PhD is you usually have extensive, practitioner experience. So you've worked for a while, and you're choosing to go into academia after that. So it's just a different sort of pathway that a lot of people do. What I would think, so this is what I want you to think about in terms of getting a doctoral degree. It is not necessarily training. It's not a professional degree in order for some PhD or some doctorates are professional degrees, but for the most part, it is not training to get a particular job. And don't think about it as a training ground to get a particular job, but think about it as a way of investigating a topic that you are really interested in. And that's going to be a better way to think about the whole process, right? You want to jump into it and think about, I want to study this particular weird thing because it's interesting to me. I don't want to, and that's what you're going to do. And the way that you actually sort of how it flows in terms of the career prospects going forward, it's not like an MBA or a nursing degree or an engineering degree where you go into it and then you immediately get jobs from that, right? So people are searching for that, but instead you're building your job. You're building what you're interested in, and you go into those areas that just seem more lucrative, and then it's a natural flow into something that is related. You get a career that's kind of a natural flow. So if you go, you study medical equipment, I study medical devices, it's a pretty logical flow to go into a pharmaceutical or medical device firm after that. Maybe it's being an executive, and people have done that, right? That's kind of I've seen that as a transition, and it's a really logical way to do it, and it makes a lot of sense. Or you can go into academia, right? So you want to think about it in terms of this logical flow of studying something that you're just inherently interested in, or you think it's curious, or, it's really kind of fun. And you just want to study that, and then it's a logical flow from that. So if you want to go into, learn about sports, for example, or sports analytics, well, you just study that, and then there'll be something at the end of it that will emerge, and because you're studying that particular thing, you want to continuously look at that in terms of the opportunities that it gives to study something, not only the research opportunities, but also the industry opportunities that you get, right? So what you're trying to do is build your life and plan your life in such a way that you're doing something that you really like to do, right? So you want to sort of build it in a sense that you're just studying something that you just find inherently interesting, right? So is it easier to get a job with a PhD? No, it is not. It's actually a little bit more tougher because you're specialized, and people don't know where to place you in terms of where you fit with everybody else, right? So that's going to be the biggest thing. So, for example, a lot of professors in business schools actually make less than the MBAs that they teach. It's extremely common for this to happen. It's called wage inversion or salary inversion that you get. And that's absolutely common that you get this. In the sense that you're teaching people that are going to make a lot more than you're ever going to make. And the reason is that the people that are hiring, they just don't know where to place you in terms of, does it make sense to hire you as an MBA? Are you a technical person? Are you an analytical person? Where do you fit? And a lot of people struggle with that unless they have a PhD or unless they sort of see what it's about. And that's part of why I'm doing this reciprocity channel, is to get the word out in terms of, what it's about, what is it entitled, so other people can sort of make sense of what it is, right? So what can you actually do with a PhD? Again, what you're trying to do is take deeper dives into something that you're really passionate and interested about. And so you want to look for things. It's not only sort of things that are passionate about, because there's lots of things that you can be passionate about that are just not going to pan out in terms of having a good career prospect. Like if you wanted to study knitting, golly, good luck getting a good sort of valuable job at the end of that, right? But there is somebody that actually studied knitwear, and they actually became very famous in terms of their in terms of who they are as a professor, but in terms of getting a job at the end of it, in terms of an industry job, it's a lot more tougher to get that, right? So you want to sort of look at what are things that are going to be valuable in terms of giving you jobs and giving you value in the marketplace, right? So if you're both valuable in industry and in academia, that gives you a lot of opportunities, and it also sort of gives you leverage when you get, if you want to go into academia, it gives you leverage because then you could say, well, I can take this industry job over here pretty easily. It's not quite so easy as that, but basically it's giving you leverage. It's making you more attractive. If the things are valuable in industry, they're valuable, and people are recognizing them in academia as well. And so you want to look for those particular things, right? So finance in general is always going to be fairly hot. Accounting always going to be fairly hot. I think I would be, it's just really difficult to do those things. So, and as well as that you could see a direct correlation between doing this stuff and making more money for the business and making more money for people around you. And the more that there's this kind of direct correlation, the easier it is to demonstrate the value of what you're doing, right? So, and that's really what you're looking for in just kind of walking through people through the logic of why they're hiring you. And if you could do that, that's going to benefit you tremendously, right? So that's what you're looking for. So hopefully you like this video. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.